can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Eevee and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's your boy Ernie, the Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, so before we get into today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap that notification bell. That way you don't miss out on anything. Also, make sure you hit that like button too, because it really helps the channel out, helps us out in the algorithm a great deal. So hook a brother up. So today's video, we're gonna be talking about, in full spoilers, Transformers number 13. And in this one, we are going to be getting the full-on origin of probably one of the most popular Decepticons in the history of Transformers, Starscream. So in this one, what I like about this is we actually get to learn a little bit about who Starscream was as a character prior to the formation of the Decepticons, and maybe even kind of while the Decepticons are becoming a thing. And, you know, while this isn't news exactly, we knew that, you know, just based on the original animated series, as well as, you know, the earliest issues of the Energon universe, especially Transformers number 1, we knew that Starscream and Jetfire are, you know, old friends, you know, predating the conflict between Autobot and Decepticon. So this isn't new. But what we do learn is that there was a third person involved in that, a character by the name of Jinvo, and these three were as thick as thieves, and, you know, they were the quintessential, you know, friend group where, you know, they would hang out together after work and go out, you know, talk about their dreams and their ambitions and whatnot. But where Starscream falls into this is that while you have Jetfire to the left of Starscream, where, you know, he wants to explore the world, the universe, he believes that the upcoming conflict between Autobot and Decepticon is a waste of time. He thinks that they should try to, you know, figure things out peacefully, and that, you know, there's, you know, bigger fish to fry than going to war with one another, that there's a whole universe out there to explore and so much life to appreciate. Whereas to the right of Starscream, there's Jinvo. Jinvo is a guy who you can just tell his nose is wide open. He is like, he is all in for Megatron. He believes what Megatron is selling. He believes that the Decepticons are the good guys, and he has already bought himself in to the Decepticon way of thinking, to the point where he's even trying to get Starscream to see to reason. Now, granted, at this particular time, Starscream is not Starscream. He actually has a completely different name, very similar to how, if you're familiar with like the original animated series of Transformers, there's a point later on in the series where they reveal that Optimus Prime was not always called Optimus Prime. His original name was Orion Pax. It was very similar in the most recent Transformers 1 movie, where, you know, both Megatron and Optimus Prime had very different names than, you know, what they are normally known for. And in this, it's kind of the same. Starscream was not always called Starscream. His name was Ulchtar, which, when you think about it, is basically almost the same as being named Percival. Like, that's like the Cybertronian equivalent of being named like Phineas or Percival or something of that magnitude, I feel. But yeah, that said, yeah, he was a scientist, as we kind of already knew. He's, you know, a very smart guy, Starscream. But he was a scientist, he was an engineer, and he really, at the end of the day, just wanted some damn acknowledgement. Not so much in the sense that he felt that he was owed anything, but he wanted to be recognized. He was that guy that, you know, he wanted to be seen as somebody, and that's what he strives for. And we see in this issue, as he's hanging out with his buddies Jetfire and Jinvo, he stumbles across Omega Supreme, a Transformer who is largely considered a Titan, and I say largely, pun intended, but yes, Omega Supreme is one of the largest Transformers in the entire canon, and Omega Supreme is flying by Moonbase 2, and both Starscream, Jetfire, and Jinvo go to Moonbase 2 to try to get a peek at Omega Supreme as he flies by. And it's in this issue where Starscream actually unleashes a weapons payload into, you know, that causes an explosion to get Omega Supreme's attention, and Omega Supreme looks down and simply waves. And this makes Starscream's day, because he finally feels recognized by, you know, the quotey fingers gods. of the Transformers. You know, technically not really so much a god, so much of a sense, but Omega Supreme is technically like a titan to the other Transformers, just based on nothing more than his size alone, not even taking into consideration his immense strength and power that he commands. But yes, Omega Supreme is a big deal, you know, pun intended again. That said, Starscream has what is effectively one of those telltale game moments. There's the moment where one of two things could happen, and you have to make a choice, or rather, he doesn't have to make a choice, but someone else makes the choice for him. Jetfire is leaving. Jetfire goes off on, you know, to his own merry way to travel the stars and learn more about the universe and whatnot, using the maps that Starscream has put together for him. And what ends up happening is that, you know, because Jetfire is the more down-to-earth, more, you know, open to the idea of peace and living, you know, non-violently, it's here where the one person who probably could have kept Starscream from becoming a Decepticon is gone. He leaves. And we know that, especially if you keep up with the Void Rival series, we know that later on down the stretch, you know, Jetfire had run off, you know, to the far-flung reaches of the universe. But then also at the same time, we know that at the beginning of Transformers issue 1, Starscream kills Jetfire, because by that particular point in time, Starscream is not the same character that Jetfire originally knew him as. While we never get to see it play out, there's a pretty strong possibility. Yeah, if Jetfire never left, if it was Jinvo that was the one that left, there's a strong possibility Starscream never would have become Starscream. I mean, maybe the capacity for him to become Starscream was always there, but I don't know, I just don't see it happening. But because he left and Jinvo was his only friend, and Jinvo was completely radicalized by the Decepticons, in a moment where the Autobots are chasing them down, Optimus and the rest of the Autobots gun down Jinvo. Now, we don't know exactly why Jinvo and Blitzwing and the other Decepticons were running away. We don't know the full answer behind that, but it makes it pretty obvious that they probably did something. They're Decepticons. They usually do bad things. You know, even if it is for the, you know, quoted fingers greater good, you know, whatever, they do bad things. So it makes sense that, you know, the Autobots went after them the way they did. The Autobots and the Decepticons are at war with one another. That's what happens. But that said, it makes you wonder, you know, what could have been, because now that Starscream has literally witnessed, you know, in the wake of one of his best friends going off to see the universe, he has now witnessed his other best friend get gunned down by, you know, the Autobots. So what is Starscream to think? What is Starscream to even imagine all of that to even mean? And that's exactly what brings him to become Starscream, witnessing his other best friend Jinvo dying in his hands after being gunned down by Autobots. This moment in particular is a huge chunk of why he gets radicalized. And then you enter Megatron, who sees this moment happen and is using his charisma to win Starscream over. And even then, it seems like Starscream is unsure about what his next move is. But the moment that Megatron transforms into his gun form and lands in Starscream's hands, it becomes clear what Starscream is ultimately going to do, who he's going to become. We see earlier when Jinvo recalls how Starscream got Omega Supreme to look down and acknowledge them from on high. This is the moment that Starscream becomes who he was always destined to be. The moment that he says, "You screamed the stars into seeing us." That's the moment that Ulchtar ceased to be Ulchtar, and the moment that Ulchtar became Starscream. But getting more into what's going on with Starscream, something else happens, because the Energon universe is ever widening. We've seen in the wake of the Cobra Commander series, as well as, you know, the Energon Universe one-shot, that Megatron, the reason why we had not seen him is because he was under lock and key. He had been captured by Cobra Law, and Cobra Commander was studying him and also learning about Energon. And while, you know, Megatron was able to get away, now Cobra proper, not Cobra Law, but Cobra proper now has access to a Transformer once again, because now, in the wake of Starscream having lost in his fight for power with Soundwave, Mars, who, those who are unfamiliar, the organization Mars, led by Destro, who is a part of Cobra. We learn that Mars now has their hands on Starscream. They have found him, lying, by the lava where Soundwave left him to die. And we see that there's an unnamed character, a character who I don't know who this could potentially be. Not going to pretend to know, but there's a character who claims that his father was a genuine American hero. Kind of a play on the tagline of a real American hero. Now the question now becomes, because the nature of nuance, was this guy who is the son of some man who was that he considers a genuine American hero, was this a real actual American hero, or was this a guy who thought he was a hero but he fought for the wrong side? And I say that because one of his subordinates, Raz, brings up that, oh yeah, he was a genuine American hero and then he started working for Mars, and which kind of basically lets you know this guy probably wasn't the good person that he believed himself to be. But yeah, whoever this new character is, we don't know, but we don't get a name for him or anything like that. But he is leading the salvage team that has discovered Starscream, meaning that Cobra is about to have access once again to Transformers, which makes things even more crazy considering the fact that, yeah, of everything that's been going on lately, the Cobra side has actually been more tied to the Transformers than the G.I. Joes have been. Really, the G.I. Joes, probably their biggest connection has been more in terms of Duke having encountered Starscream in the early issues of Transformers. So there's that. But yeah, everything has come together. The Transformers and the G.I. Joe forces, both Cobra and G.I. Joe and Cobra Law, are all converging on each other. And yeah, I can't wait to see it play out.